Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Brady and Rosie Book Talk Patreon. Today, we are going to be sharing with you our 333. So we're going to be chatting 3 books that we think are overhyped, 3 books that we think are appropriately hyped, and 3 books that we think deserve more hype.
I'm very excited to talk about this because you've done a couple videos on this. And I just think it's a fun way to chat about books that we really love, or maybe books that we just think like, I don't know, maybe got a little bit too much attention in our opinion.
And to share some books that aren't in the spotlight enough that we think deserve more eyes on them. So we will get into that in a bit, but first we'll share with you guys our last current next. So Rosie, what is the last book that you read?
You guys, I am literally so deep into the Stillhouse Lake series. I need to literally like send whoever gave me this rec on live like a $10 Venmo for some coffee, because it's like getting me through reading and getting me so excited about reading. But there's 6 books in the series. I originally thought there was only 4, but there's 6. And I just read the 3rd one. I'm like almost done with the 4th one. I think after I finish the 4th book, which I think is called Bitter Falls, something like that. I don't know. They're all like aquatic related, like rivers and lakes and falls. I think that the next book, though, I want to read after that. I'm reading The Rumor, obviously, but I want to pick up Bye Baby because we had that on our potential book of the months. And then you had mentioned it again and it brought back to my attention. And then that's on KU as well, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, I think I'm just gonna read.
Yeah, and I think it just came out this year too. So when I saw it on Kindle Unlimited again, I was like, wait, this is on KU? Like this is a new release. I saw it at like my local bookstore. I saw it on all the Amazon charts. It has like a 3.8 on Goodreads, which I feel can go either one way or the other. So you never really know where it's going to fall.
Yeah, I'm like way deep in thrillers right now, though. Like even like when I started to read like the first week of The Rumor, it like really took me like 30 pages to like get into it because my brain has been so like thriller focused that I was like, whoa, like this is like honestly kind of boring because like no one was getting murdered or like there was nothing crazy thrilling happening. And I was like, okay, I need to chill. It's a beach read. Okay.
Where's the killing? Where are the knives? Where are the guns?
But the fun thing about this 4th book though, is that there's a cult in it. And so I'm like very hooked in.
Perfect.
If you guys like followed my page before, I talk a lot. Well, not a lot, but like I've mentioned it many times that like I really love creepy kid thrillers and I really like cult thrillers. And I didn't know that there was going to be a cult in this one. And I just got like really excited about it.
That's a good surprise. I love like culty thrillers because they're different. They're different than like any like kind of vibe out there. So I'm glad you're getting a little taste of that.
Yes, it's been great. What's your last current next?
So the last book I read, I'm actually going to talk about as one of the books that I think deserves more hype. So I'll get to that. I'm currently still reading Nuclear War, A Scenario by Annie Jacobson. And it is the coolest nonfiction book I've ever read in my entire life. And I actually grabbed the physical copy of it because I didn't realize that like throughout it, there are photos and like little diagrams and stuff of like what she's talking about. Like I had no idea.
You're literally in your science era.
No, what is going on? It's terrifying, like what the world is capable of. Basically about what would happen if the United States was under nuclear attack from North Korea. And like it walks you through second by second, minute by minute of like what happens in the government, where does the president go, who is and like what's the chain of command of like, okay, now do we fire back? It's truly the most fascinating thing. And she interviews literally anyone you can think of, like presidential advisors, the cabinet members, nuclear war engineers, the Secret Service. Like it gets you right up to the point of like legally knowing what we're allowed to know. It's fascinating.
Ooh.
I would say pick it up and read it rather than listening to it, just because I'm missing out on all of these like diagrams and stuff. So I'm going to continue reading the physical copy. Also, of course, reading The Rumor, which I'm enjoying. Sorry, I'm trying to pick it up. The Rumor. I love it. I mean, it just feels good to be back on Nantucket with my girl, you know?
What are your thoughts on The Rumor? I know we obviously just did our discussion post, but like we could chat maybe a little bit about how we're feeling so far.
I'm definitely liking it so far. Rosie and I were chatting about this very briefly. At first, I thought that Madeline and Grace were sisters. And I was like, why are their kids dating? And then it all made sense. So I was like, okay, got it now. If you are an Ellen Hildebrand fan, then it's nice to hear names like Bent and Co. He's like a popular character in her books. So it feels good to just be back on Nantucket. I feel the warmth on my skin. I smell the sunscreen. It feels good to be back.
Every time I pick up a Nantucket novel, I just am like, I've got to go. I've got to be here. Like, it's just been fun to read. And I'm like, like the thing about like these books though is like I felt like I couldn't get into it at first because every like character we were getting introduced to, I was like, do I know this character? Like, have I already read about this character? Like literally when it was like Allegra and Hope and they were twins, I was like, how long ago is this book set? And, like, because I couldn't remember the names of the girls from the Identicals with Tabitha
Right.
and Harper. I had to look them up. But I was like, oh my God, is there any way that like this is like way previous? And then these are like, and like no. And then they mentioned the name Hollis. And the Hollis Shaw is in the 5-Star Weekend, but I don't think that it's the same. I think that it's like a younger person, but that's again, my brain kept like almost disconnecting from the novel because I was like, ooh, do I know that? And then like the same with Benton. Is it Benton or Brenton? I think it's Benton.
It's like almost looking too much for Easter eggs. It's like being
Yeah.
a Taylor Swift fan is also being an Ellen Hildebrand fan. Honestly, that's a great like if you like Taylor Swift, you'll like Ellen.
Yes, I like that. That's a good like little comparison. And it took me like a second to get into it because I'm very thriller focused right now. Once I got to the end of week one's reading, I was like, I kind of just want to keep going. So I honestly might finish it like soon. And then I'll just take notes for like the discussions just because I feel like I really do want to read The Castaways this month too. So I feel like I want to just kind of get the rumor, like get through it.
This is probably a good break for you then because you're like majorly in thriller mode. So reading Ellen is a great like little way to break it all up for you.
Well, one, I'm on my period, so I get weird nightmares when I'm on my period. But when I'm reading a lot of like thrillers, I also get really like messed up dreams. So I'm like, I really need to like, I need to chill.
Yeah, you're going to be spooked out.
Yeah, it's a little scary over here. What are you reading next?
I am looking on my Goodreads because, my friend Alexandra shared Kill for Me, Kill for You. I'll share the cover so you can see. She always sends me like Snapchat videos like of like chatting, and I love that. She was like, I could not have predicted any part of this book. Give it a
I've
try.
never heard of this one. I'm going to literally put it on my Goodreads right now. I've been trying to utilize the like read later tab or whatever on Goodreads because I never do that. But I'm trying to get better about that. So when I actually need to read a book or want a new book, it's on there. I've never heard of this book though. Is it new? No.
Yeah, it came out. I remember it was an option for I want to say either March or April book of the month. And I almost grabbed it instead of Listen for the Lie, but I grabbed Listen for the Lie instead. And I really like that one. But
Yeah.
this is a newer release. So I did look it up on Kindle last night and it is like $14.99 on Kindle. So I'm like, do I want to just grab the physical copy instead just to have it? Love the want to read feature on Goodreads. It's literally what I use when I go in the bookstore. Like I filter my books by my want to read. And that's how I decide what I want to buy.
On Goodreads though, if you guys like, if you're interested in this book, it says for fans of The Silent Patient and Gone Girl. And as a thriller girly, I might be picking that one up soon.
Let's start with 3 books that we think are overhyped. I just like sat on the floor and stared at my bookshelf and I'm like, which one of you did I hate?
I always feel bad like talking about books like I didn't like because like I'm always just afraid it's going to be someone's favorite book and they're going to be like, wow, that like really hurt my feelings.
I don't really think a lot of people on Book Talk like have feelings because they just like come at your neck. If you say if I'm like, I don't like ACOTAR, they're like, you're ugly. I'm like, okay.
Do they come from your physical appearance sometimes? So they'll be like, oh yeah, you look like a girl that wouldn't like. And it's like, what is that? Like I got that one time and I was like, okay, like I actually don't know what that means, but like, okay, thanks.
Someone commented on my shiny forehead before and I was like, that's because I have fresh Botox, but thank you.
No, literally when someone's like, I know when people are trying to be mean and be like, your face is like, or your forehead's shiny. And I'm like, thank you. I paid for that.
Do you know how much the skincare costs?
You're like, I actually want my forehead to be able to see a reflection of yourself off of it. That's my preference.
Look how dumb you look. You should smack a quarter off this forehead.
That's what I want.
Please don't yell at us. Books are subjective, and that's why we love reading, right?
Yep. And like, I could honestly bet money that one of the books that maybe we love, you'll be like, I did not love that book either. So they're all just opinions. We come from a good place, but also we have opinions and we're going to share them.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
We're going to start off my overrated book that I see a lot about that I think is overrated is Butcher and Blackbird.
Okay. I like that.
This book was literally made for me. Like I love serial killers. I love serial killers that kill serial killers. And I love like spicy romance. I'm like, check, 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 check. However, this book was weird. I don't know. And people are probably going to say you should have listened to it on the audiobook. I did try that as well because they had it on Spotify Premium. It was a little too theatrical. I don't need my audiobooks to be moaning at me.
I 100% agree. And I'm glad you said that because I actually overlooked it. I have it on my bookshelf. And now I'm sitting here like, yeah, you need to go. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have a home here anymore. Like, you, bye, Topanga, you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're running out of room, so you're like, I have to get rid of some of these books, you know?
And Butcher and Blackbird, agreed. The audio, I think I changed my rating on that the last time we did one of these videos. The audiobook is so cringy. It's like listening to people moaning, and I just don't think that romance books are meant to be listened to. Like, I like World War II historical fictions to be listened to because it's like you're telling a story, you're living in it. Spicy romance makes me blush when I'm reading it on my Kindle. I don't need to be blushing driving down the road, going through the Dunkin' drive-thru. I don't need them to know what I'm listening to.
No, spicy romance is hard on audiobook because all I just imagine is also like some just normal civilian that does audiobooks being like, just, I don't know, like his length was like the way that they like describe it. Like, I just can't, it's just not as sexy when it's being said to me. But I do love reading stuff like that. But that book just, I did audio, I read it, and it didn't vibe with me.
My first book that I think is a little bit overhyped. This isn't really hyped up right now, but it was at one point, and it is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. And Rosie, I know you love this book.
Yeah, I love this book.
I just did not. I thought it was just boring. Like, there wasn't anything like bad about it. I just thought it was boring. And I love Riley Sager, and I love the cover of this book. It's so cool, and there's just like so much potential with it. But I found it extremely boring, and I really wish I liked it.
That's fair. I honestly could see how you could find that book boring because I found myself bored at times. I think I just like the setting a lot.
Definitely like eerie.
Yeah, like the cliffside. I think it's set in Maine. Yeah, I liked the family like drama aspect of it. But I do feel like Riley Sager books are very hit or miss. And like when they hit, they hit. And when they miss, they are big misses.
Agreed. Home run or strikeout, no in between. Can't wait to see what Middle of the Night is like because I'm ready for a home run.
Because what, did you stopped reading, what's it called? Kill something or?
Final Girls.
I was gonna say like the Slaying Wives. I don't know.
Yeah, Final Girls. I just didn't care. And based on all of the DMs that everybody was sending me, they were like, it's not really worth it. Like it's fine, but it's not like, don't lose sleep over it. So it's back on my shelf.
Yeah, it's a really pretty book though.
It is. It's cute.
Those covers rock.
So good.
Okay, well, the next book that I think is overrated is The Last Thing He Told Me, and it's by Laura Dave. Did you ever read this book?
Mm-mm.
This one was like all over Book Talk, maybe, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, to the point that like people were saying it was like their favorite book ever. It got made into an Apple TV series with Jennifer Garner, I think, as like the main character. It's pretty much like this family. It's a mom, dad.
Looking up the cover.
Yeah. And mom, dad, daughter, and the dad goes missing and they're trying to figure out like what happened to him. And I gave it a 1 star. I read it in 2021. And I don't know, again, like if this was like my issue of trusting too many young people on TikTok, but this book just like was not thrilling. It wasn't twisty. And then I even watched the series and I felt a very similar way watching the series. I was like, yeah, this is not good for me.
It's probably one of those books that like everybody was recommending when Book Talk started to become a thing and nobody knew the good books that were out there.
Yes.
That could actually be twisty and thrillery. Everyone was recommending this one and now they're all probably like, ugh.
Yeah, they're like, that actually was not a good book. I shouldn't have told everyone to read it. If I remember right, though, I think it's a short book. I could look. I would not read this book.
Good to know. I've seen the cover everywhere, but I'm okay.
Yeah, it didn't do it.
We have Hidden Pictures.
I've been getting recommended this one like crazy, and I have it on my TBR. So I want to hear what your feelings were on it.
Overall, it was like fine. It was like a fine thriller. I remember, I don't remember like a lot of details about it, but I remember the ending was a little far-fetched. Like it turned into kind of like a ghost story that was just like, it didn't need to be that way. It's literally called Hidden Pictures, and you get to see in it the photos that the kid is drawing. Kid is like in tune with what's going on in the house.
Oh.
So that's the one part I did like, because then this like his pictures turn like
detailed.
Dark.
Okay,
yeah.
It's a picture book.
Yes. Sit down, class.
Okay, wait, those are like really interesting illustrations too.
Yeah, so like here's a creepy one.
Oh my god. Spooky.
Yeah. So they get like good, and then it's about a girl who is like has a nannying job, and she starts nannying, and then the kid starts drawing creepy pictures, and she's like trying to figure out what the pictures are about, but like no one's listening to her and nobody cares. But it just like it was fine, and it just like wasn't that great, and it's recommended a lot to a lot of people, and I just didn't think it was like anything crazy. You will probably like it because you like creepy kids.
I'll probably like immediately give it a little bit of slack because I just like am always looking for those types of books. But I've read creepy kid books that I think are really stupid too. So I'll read it this summer and I'll report back.
Yeah, please do. Third and final.
Okay, so I have a Frida McFadden book because these are obviously very, very well received. And everyone talks about this one, and I honestly thought this was one of her worst ones, and it's The Inmate. This is like a lot of people's like favorite Frida McFadden book, and I literally thought it was really stupid. It's like about a woman who used to date someone that's now in prison, and her conviction is like the reason he went to prison, and then she's like working as like a nurse practitioner in the prison, which I'm like, they would literally never allow such a thing. If I remember right, it like takes place in like present day, but then also like to the situation that happened to why he's in prison. So like flashes back. I just thought it was really stupid. To be frank, I just didn't like it.
I read that one of, again, like back in the day when, Frida was overtaking everybody's world.
Yeah.
I liked it back when I read it because I didn't know anything else was out there better than it. I like books that take place in jail.
Yeah. Okay.
Give me jail books. Do you have any jail book, Rex?
No, I'm like, wait, let me think. Or when you said that, I was like, have I read any like more jail books?
No, I want to know about jail, and like I love jail TV shows. Like we love 60 Days In, or like that show on Netflix that's going around right now. There's a new warden, and he changes this rule where they currently live 23 hours behind bars, 1 hour of like free time. And he does it so that he opens all the doors and they get to just live in the pod like freely.
Oh.
And they have to like still follow the rules. So they like naturally fall into this order of like a hierarchy. And it's interesting. It's like it's true. And it's like a documentary style in the jail, but it's really good. It's on Netflix, but I just love jail shows.
Did you ever watch Prison Break then?
Yes. Loved it.
Absolutely obsessed with Prison Break, especially like the first season. I think the end where like you figure out how they're breaking out of prison is literally still ingrained in my brain many years later. I'm like,
had my heart pounding out of my chest, like so good. And his dedication to get the blueprints of the jail tattooed on his body, like
literally crazy.
Insane. The thought that had to go into that.
I will look through my Goodreads and see if I have read any jail books. And if not, you guys, if you have any books that qualify or apply to that, please comment them for Brady so she can read more about jail.
I love jail, but I don't love jail. I love reading about jail.
I love jail. It's like I have purse.
I have purse. I have shoe.
I have hat on head. Wait, no, you have one more, right?
I think I do. Yeah, and it's a big ins.
Ooh, okay.
See if you can guess it.
Oh, Akatar. Okay, actually, this is such a good one for like. I mean, I agree.
Yeah, we are. I don't want to say we're Akatar haters. We just like we're not the demographic for this. Like we're not Akatar girls. We've both tried. I've made it through this one. I made it through the green one, and I'm like 70% of the way through the pink one, and I don't plan on continuing. And that's that on that.
Yep. It's our cross to bear that we are not major Akatar girlies. And I mean, the fact that you call them like the green one and the pink one, I think seals the deal.
I can't. And I don't know. I've seen photos and videos of people finishing A Court of Wings and Ruin. I believe that's the one I'm currently reading, the pink one. Technically I'm reading it. I'm not. And they're like sobbing. And I just don't care that much. And I'm like, I'm not going to give it a fair shot. So I'm just not even going to continue it because I don't want to put a bad rating out there for a book that I didn't even really give a fair shot. Yeah. So I love that other people love it, but I will not be continuing with the series. Even though I did give this one, I believe like a 3.5 and the last one I gave a 4, but I genuinely don't care anymore. So
I very much co-sign all of that. And like, it's just, there are a lot of very long books. I feel like they're, like we talked about this on live too recently. I think it was on live. I feel like they, again, like the TikTok thing where I feel like TikTok did the books not a good service because they like really phrase them as like these like fantasy spicy books. And so as like a reader of spicy novels and a lover of those books, like I'm like, where you at? Like this is the spice that I was waiting for.
No, like where is the spice? Where, huh? Yeah. Do you have a magnifying glass? Because I don't see it.
Like whenever we talk about disliking ACOTAR, most people's responses are like, well, you should read Throne of Glass. And that even just seems like an even larger commitment. I feel like it does seem like those books are like more well received. Like people really like those ones better. But I don't know. I like I loved Divine Rivals. I loved Fourth Wing. I really want to read Powerless. I just think maybe I'm like more into maybe I need to dip my toes more into fantasy before reading like longer series like that.
That's a good point. And maybe too, like now that ACOTAR is all out and Throne of Glass, all of it's out, it's kind of intimidating because now it's like 7 books ahead of us, where Fourth Wing, we're kind of reading it as they come out. So it's like not as much as of like a daunting task to read 5 or 7 books. And the 5 and 7 books that you're reading are thick boys. So, you know, it's a daunting task. And it's also, reading is part of our job, kind of. So a whole month dedicated just to reading the Throne of Glass series, like that's a whole month of reading. Just, I don't want to say down the drain because I might love it, but it's also like, you know, 7 books that I'm dedicating to 1 month of just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And what, isn't there a part in the Throne of Glass series where you can read them at the same time, or these 2 books, and then, or you can read them in like separate order, something like that. Like, and I'm so like confused on that. I don't know how that works because I've never read a book like that.
So you can read the first book, Assassin's Blade. You can read it. There's different parts throughout the series where you can fit it in and read it wherever. It depends on how you want the story to go. But then there's also 2 books that you tandem read. So like 1 chapter of this one chapter of this one chapter. And like that, oh my gosh, I can never do that. Like moving at a snail's pace, getting through a book.
Like my mind can't be wrapped around such a thing. I can't.
Agreed.
Oh, that was a good one though. I feel like that's a very overrated book in our humble opinion.
What are we getting into now? Appropriately hyped books.
Yes. So books that we think have gotten the hype they deserve, and like we agree with that. Like if you see these books a lot, we are saying yes, we agree. The first book that I'm starting with is Every Summer After, because I just feel like that book is so good. I actually waited until last year to read it because I had not like dipped my toes into it, but I think I'd heard about it the previous summer, but at the end of summer. And I was like, it is a summer read. So if you have not read this book, you should read it this summer. And there's a lot of hype behind it. And I loved this book.
Love that one. Every Summer After is one of my favorites. Fun summer reads. I remember like reading it on the beach and feeling like warm and fuzzy inside. It's a cute read. So good. Love that one.
Well, and the fact that I can like remember, I don't remember their names because I will never remember names from books. But like I remember a lot of the content that happened in the book says a lot to me because a lot of those books kind of blend together. And like I like distinctly remember like her swimming across the lake. I remember like specific summers. So I feel like that also, if they stick with me, I generally like the book more too.
Yeah, I love that one. And I can't wait to read This Summer Will Be Different. I think it just came out today on the 7th.
Oh.
I was thinking about going to the bookstore this morning and getting it, but I haven't done it yet.
Didn't make it there.
Yeah, didn't make it there. Appropriately Hyped book is a book that I think we both will agree on, and it is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. It just like, also I realized that on Goodreads, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer are listed as a series.
Oh, okay. Did she do that after we talked about it? Abby Jimenez kept saying they were not a series, but for the most optimal way of reading. And I'm like, what do you mean they're not a series?
No, and now they're on there as the Part of Your World #1, Part of Your World 2, Part of Your World 3. So
okay, I just looked that up. Yeah, I'm like, they should be because they definitely go together.
They are 100%. But this is the only one that I give a 5-star out of that series, and it's just the best romance feel good book out there, in my opinion. It gets all the hype in the world, and it deserves all the hype that it gets.
Another like funny little thing about Yours Truly is like, I just feel like everyone loves it. Like I went over to my parents' house and my mom was like, had Yours Truly out. And she was like, have you ever read this book? And I'm like, you're reading Yours Truly? And she loved it. Like she ate it up, and she's been reading Part of Your World now for like 2 months, and she's only like 70% of the way through of it. But like, I'm like, I still loved Part of Your World. I think I might've given it 5 stars if I remember right. But Yours Truly is like the creme de la creme of those books. They're so good.
So good.
Okay. I have a book on my appropriate related. Oh, I cannot say that properly.
Appropriately rated.
I don't even know. But I know that you're going to disagree. So I have on here is the Mindfuck series, which I love this series. You liked the beginning book and the end book or something, but all the middle was kind of like meh to you, right?
Yep.
I don't like, I read this book. I mean, I read this series years ago and I had seen it everywhere and I still see people talking about it. And I personally really love this book. And like, I think that this is what kind of kicked off of my whole, like, I love books about people killing serial killers and especially love when they're women. So that's also why I thought I'd like Butcher and Blackbird more. But yeah, so I love this series and it's on KU. And if you want to read 5 books really fast,
They are very quick reads. They're like 100 pages each or something like that.
can't you get like the whole series in like one big bound book?
Yep, I had it and I ended up selling it just because it was taking up a lot of room on my bookshelf and I just didn't really love it and I wanted to pass it on to somebody who would love it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love the first and the last, but the middle 3 I was just like, okay.
Yeah, and it's like incredibly graphic, like probably one of the more graphic novels I've read. Like I remember, I think it's in the last book where you really figure out, like find out what happened to her and her brother.
Yep.
I think is when they like really describe it. And I
Yep.
was like, whoa, like we're like, this is like probably some of the most graphic and horrific things that I've like read, up there with like Pretty Girls graphic and gross. So maybe like if you are sensitive to stuff like that, any thriller you read, you should check trigger warnings. I'm not sensitive to anything like that, so it didn't bug me, but it's pretty ick, yeah, to read about.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely a wild ride for those.
Pretty shocking to say the least.
Next up, I have a book that I think will maybe shock a few people, but we have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I
Okay.
personally loved this book. Like,
Yep.
I read it 2, maybe 3 years ago. I don't really remember when it was published, like right when
I
it
think
came out.
like last January, because I remember
Yeah.
I think it was the first book I read last year or something, and I read it in like 24 hours. I couldn't put it down.
So good. Like so good. It's like almost a little bit thrillery, a little like a lot of romance. It's good. And I just remember really loving it. And I feel like it gets a lot of hype on TikTok because it's Colleen Hoover and Colleen Hoover is like the queen of book talk. She also gets a lot of hype for being Colleen Hoover. Her books are great to really suck you in. But this is a book as somebody who reads a lot that I still continue to love and think about. I just really love this one.
Yeah, because it was this the one where like something happened in high school with her and like her high school boyfriend, and then it's like years later. If I remember right,
She I'm
something
pretty sure she's out
happened.
of jail and then comes out and she's like trying to get her daughter back.
That's what it. Okay, I'm like, yeah, there was like a jail. You like the jail aspects, but that one was really good. I really loved that one. Okay, so my next book, I know you haven't read it, and this is going to be my this is going to be like my way of trying to convince you to read this book. And it is Daisy Jones and the Six, a little Taylor Jenkins Reid novel. I feel like I haven't seen as much about her books as of recently. I feel like she hasn't came out with really anything new, but she definitely has had her moment on Book Talk with like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, One True Loves. What's the other one? After I Do, Carrie Soto, all of those. But Daisy Jones and the Six is fucking incredible, but I did not read it. I listened to it on audiobook, and I think that that is how you have to like actually take in this book, because it is like interview style. So you hear from all the different perspectives of everyone getting interviewed from this band. And I feel like if you read it, you wouldn't get to like hear the voices, and it like toggles back and forth between everyone so much that I think it's like just a better audiobook.
Perfect. I have been recommended that audiobook so many times and I'll definitely add it to my TBR. Like the next time I'm scrolling through Spotify and I need to get a new good audiobook. I love books like that they like the audiobook is just elevates the book that much more. So I'll definitely add that to my TBR. It's a book that I feel like I'm missing out on because everyone raves about it. So I'll definitely be adding it to my list.
I've listened to it twice now because I listened to it a second time before the series on Amazon came out. And the series on Amazon is also incredible, like so well done. And if you want to get into that too, it's literally so good. And if you are, I don't think that you are necessarily, I don't know if you're into Fleetwood Mac, but it's like kind of loosely based on like Stevie Nicks or like inspired by.
Cool. Definitely going to add them to my list. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My next book is a book that you will agree with me on because it's a book that we both love. I don't even know if this book is like appropriately hyped, but I think it might be. We freaking love this book. Sports romance, single dad. It hits all the tropes you want. And it's so good. As somebody who is not really like, I'm not a huge fan of romance. This is romance done right. This is it. This is the book, and it's everything you could ever want from a spicy sports romance and more.
Well, and that says a lot because you have said before that you do not love like a romance that's long. And why I think this book is over 400 pages.
It is 392, but like the
Okay.
text is kind of small.
I remember like I didn't want it to end. Like I was like, I wish we had 60 more pages of this book. And like that also, I'm like, that I never feel that way with romance. Like I never want more. I'm like, okay, thank you. We're signed, sealed,
Yeah.
delivered. We're done.
Like her being a baker, I also love like baking shows. So like it was just everything I love tied up into one perfect little book. And it was so well done. And I'm so glad. And a book that we both love, and for good reason.
That kind of actually, I guess, started my like interest in sports romance. I never really had like dipped my toes much in it. And now I've been reading more sports romance. And I like that trope a lot.
Definitely. Like I love a big beefy man.
No, literally. I love these books too because there's so many crossovers like between the different teams. So like if you read the books, like you get references to like the characters in every single book, and they're all like pals, and they're all incredibly sexy and have a lot of money, and like they're just great.
And you get to also kind of follow up on them. Like in Caught Up, then you realize that like the people from the first two books are now, one's married with a kid, and they're married, or they're engaged, or like, so it gets you keep able to like keeping up with everybody. So it's perfect.
Which is why I'm excited for Play Along, because then we can probably get some more Kai and Miller in there.
Hoping.
Yeah. Like please just like actually just make another book about them. I'd be interested.
Literally like the kid, what's the baby's name?
No, I literally was just, my brain was going Kai Miller and
what is his name?
Same. Gotta say.
Max. Most basic name. Like give us Max all grown up.
What, now we're going to go into books that we think are very underrated and deserve a lot more hype.
Yes. Kick us off.
Okay. I like feel like a couple of mine are not going to be that shocking, but I have The Butterfly Garden on here because you guys know I've been just like literally screaming it from the rooftops that this is like a really good book, because I read a lot of thrillers. So a lot of them are very similar in like even just like the format of how they read. And this one was very different, and it gave me a little bit more like Criminal Minds vibes. The actual content of it was like very different of like what was happening. And it was incredibly disturbing, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. And so I really like think that book could use some more hype, and I'm just trying to tell people they need to read it.
And you have been heard because I'm on page 7. So
perfect.
I'm diving in 2% of the way through. So we're churning through.
What is actually happening to like the women in this book is it's so unique. I've never like read anything like it. And so I think that's also why I liked it so much, because I was like, oh God, I've literally like never seen anything like it. It is a series, and I would not recommend reading past the first one, because the first one was an easy 5-star for me, and all of them kind of just like they kind of went but it wasn't, none of them were 5 stars after that, and I think you can do without them.
I think I probably won't read the rest, but yeah, this is 100% a recommendation I got from you, and I'm excited, very excited to dive in.
I hope you like it, or like even if you don't like give it 5 stars, I hope it's still a fun read for you. Okay, what about you? What's your book that you think deserves a lot more hype?
I'm trying to decide which way I want to go. Do I want to go thriller, World War II historical fiction? Let's go thriller.
Perfect.
Let's go with the thriller theme. A book that I read over the weekend that was really good, and it's by the same author as Ask for Andrea, and it's called Gray After Dark. Looks like this.
Oh, okay. I did see you post about this one.
And it's really good. And it's about a girl who is, she's an Olympic athlete, but she got injured. Her shoulder was hurt. So she goes to like a summer camp to work for the summer. And while she's there, she goes out on a run. Oh, it also takes place in Idaho. So she goes on a run through these mountains. And one day she's like swimming in a stream, and she comes up out of the water, and there are these 2 guys standing there, and they kidnap her, and they hold her not really like hostage, but they're doomsday preppers. They're like super religious, and they take her back to the cabin that is like a 3 days walk from where she was taken. And they like plan to just have her like integrated into their family, and they're going to get married, and like they plan to procreate, to create a family to survive whatever disaster they think is coming to the United States. And it's crazy, and it was wild, and it was unlike anything I've ever read before. So for that reason, I think it deserves more hype.
I love a thriller that's just different than what you've read before. And I know that the author, she's like lives in Idaho, but it is fun as someone that lives here when like she describes certain areas. I'm like, oh, I literally know what she's talking about. So I wonder which area in Idaho she's talking about. So I'm gonna have to pick
It's
that
like
one
a
up.
really big like forest range or like mountain range and like forests. Oh, the Frank Church Wilderness.
Oh,
Also, it's loosely based off of a true story. At the back of the book, if you continue reading, a woman back in like the 1980s, this happened to her. And it's very, very, very loosely based off of her story. It's like more dramatized for the book. But the fact that it was loosely based off of a true story was like, okay, you're gonna be a 4 for me. You're gonna be a 4-star
yeah, you're
read.
like,
It was good. It was like under 400 pages. It was a quick read. I read it over the weekend and it was just good. And I don't really see a lot of people talking about it. And definitely different than anything I've ever read before. Like as for Andrea, we both liked because of like the haunting aspect, but it wasn't like a cheesy haunting vibe. It was
yeah,
just a good book, like a good thriller.
yeah. I think we described it as like the Powerpuff Girls as ghosts. So a book that I think deserves more hype is Recursion by Blake Crouch, because Dark Matter, I think, gets so much hype, and I understand why, because I love Dark Matter. But I do feel like Recursion does not get the same treatment. And Recursion, I think, is even better than Dark Matter. I don't really see people talk much about Recursion, or if they do, it's like they only talk about it because they're talking about Dark Matter, if that makes sense.
I definitely get that comparison. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. Recursion is so good and
So
agreed. Deserves all of his books just deserve all the hype.
yeah.
He's great.
You talk about the Wayward Pines trilogy in your other series about this. Yeah, like I just feel like a lot of his books, I don't know if they just haven't like completely taken book talk by storm, which also is fine. But I do feel like because maybe there's just too many young people reading on book talk. But I feel like if you're in like your, I don't know, mid-20s and up, you would really like these like sci-fi thrillers.
Agreed. And I think the Wayward Pines trilogy is a really great place to start because they're easy. They're not like super sciencey until, there's like a few parts that are maybe more sciencey than others, but
Yeah.
overall Dark Matter and Recursion are more sciencey all throughout. But I think Wayward Pines is a great place to start too, but Recursion is so good. Like
Yeah.
so good.
Also, Wayward Pines takes place in Idaho.
Yes.
What is up with that? Why are all the books taking place in Idaho?
I know, right?
What?
Maybe we shouldn't move there.
Like scary place. Well,
Yeah.
even like I just read Educated too, and like obviously that's a true story. So it takes
Oh my
place
gosh, yeah. 3 strikes for Idaho.
literally too many books here.
My next one, I have an Ellen book that I feel like Ellen in general isn't really talked a lot about on Book Talk. But this one is Golden Girl. And I'm
Mm.
always a little bit apprehensive to share this book because it's sad. It's a sad concept of a book, but it's so good. It's the first Ellen book that I've ever read. And it's about a mom who passes away. She gets hit by a car while she's out on a run. And before she transitions over into the beyond, she's in this little like in between phase where she's still like floating over above. And while she's floating over above and like watching all of her 3 kids, she meets this woman named Martha. And Martha grants her 3 nudges that will change and alter the path of like whatever's going on Earth. So she uses each one of the nudges on her children when they're about to make a bad decision, and she like nudges them in the opposite direction. And it's very, very, very good. I remember crying at the end of it, but it's sad. So I don't ever want, like, my mom was like, should I read that? And I was like, no, you shouldn't, but it's very good. And I just don't see a lot of people talking about Ellen in general, but this one specifically. But it's one of my favorites, one of the first ones I ever read. It was published in, only 2021.
Well, I like that one too, because again, it's a unique concept. I've like really never read a book like that. And it's like, again, like from a ghost or like from the beyond, but not in a cheesy way. It's actually like lots of like, I feel like really well written about grief and like how grief affects people very differently, especially like the sibling dynamic of all of the oldest to the youngest, like how they deal with the grief is really interesting.
Hey, what's your next one?
Again, I don't think this is going to shock anyone because I can't shut the fuck up when I like things. But it's the Stillhouse Lake like series. I'm on book 4 and I like have rated all of them 4 stars and above. But the first book literally shook me to my core. I have not read a prologue like this ever. It was like my jaw was on the floor and I immediately was hooked in a prologue. And normally it takes me a second to get into a book. They're about, I mean, I don't even want to say too much, but it's pretty much just about a family who the husband is a serial killer, but different than other books that you, because I mean, I've read books where like the dad is a serial killer, but you find out like immediately at the beginning and it's like divulges lots of stuff. I don't even want to say too much. Literally the prologue was so crazy. It'll like hook you right away. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm such a Kindle Unlimited slut. I literally can't help myself. And you also get it on audiobook. Same with the Butterfly Garden, where you can then like when you download it, it automatically goes to your Audible and then you can listen and read at the same time. I feel like that's why I'm like cruising through them so fast, is because I'll read at home and then hop in the car and it will pick up where I left off.
I love that. And I was going to ask what your ratings have been for the book so far. So it's good to know they're all over 4 stars. I don't know why. I thought it was like, I knew it was a thriller, but hearing that it's like a dad serial killer, now like I might pick that up like soon.
Yeah. And it like kind of gave me a little, like some of the content gave me a little bit like Pretty Girls vibes, and really fucking disturbing, but really good. I don't know. It's literally so good. And the second book was really good. I think the third book I gave 4 stars. The second book I gave 4.5. I don't know why I said third and then second. And then the fourth book I'm almost done with. And the fourth book, like I said, is like culty. So I'm really enjoying that as well. And I don't really know where the series is going. I didn't know it was a 6-book series. I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I'm like engulfed now into the characters, and I like love the characters too.
Also, I feel like having a parent being a serial killer. Am I thinking Local Woman Missing or A Flicker in the Dark? One of them.
Flicker in the Dark. It's the neighbor. Oh, not that's. Oh my god.
Wait, I also wanted to. Did you see like that's taking the internet by storm? Like this.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, like I think it was it Brianna Chicken Fry?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, we've been known about that.
I know,
Y'all are like game.
And like, yeah, we literally made jokes about that for months now, 3 months. Because A Flicker in the Dark and The Locked Door by Frida McFadden are like the same premise. Yes. And I read A Flicker in the Dark and then I don't know how I did this, and then literally picked up The Locked Door, and I thought I was like having a stroke when I was reading, or like having some sort of mental break, because I'm like, this is the same book. And now when I like have been mentioning it, people are like, Stillhouse Lake got me back into reading. Like that like series is so good. So I'm like, people have been reading it. I just have not heard really anyone talk about it. And I definitely think that people should pick it up.
I'm glad you're bringing it to the world of book talk then, because the world is missing out.
I'm doing my service, you know?
Our third and final, I have a World War II historical fiction. I'll be quick because it's like, I know not a lot of people really love this genre, but I didn't realize there is a sequel to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, the movie that we all watched back in the day. Sad, heartbreaking. And it is called All the Broken Places, and it follows his sister.
I remember watching that movie. I never watched it until college. I was having a Sunday Scaries day in college where I was like, everyone hates me. I'm like, was a drunk ass last night. And I decided I was like, I wanted to get in my feels and watch The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. And I sobbed like horribly all day. It just made myself feel extremely worse. So yeah, that book's fucking sad. I mean, the movie is, and so there's a sequel. Tell us more, because I did not know this.
Yeah, it's called All the Broken Places, and it follows Bruno's sister Gretel, and it's her in her 90s, and she like makes friends with this little boy who lives in her building, and it's just like her flashing back and forth between the two, and also like trying to rid herself of the burden of her brother dying. I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, but it's really good, and I don't really see a lot of people talk about it, and I didn't even know that there was a sequel to it until I picked it up, and I went to start it on Goodreads, like put as reading, and it was like Boy in the Striped Pajamas #2, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So
yeah. When did you read this one?
I remember listening to it on the plane when I went to, I believe, San Diego for the Amazon event. So that was in September, almost October of last year, like probably like 6 months ago.
I feel like you do have really good historical fiction recs, but I don't feel like enough people have really gotten into that genre. But I feel like you have really good recs and places to start.
Thank you. I'm trying to read more to do a I don't know, like top 5 favorites video. I just feel like I love World War II historical fiction, but they're always such a daunting task to pick up and read, because usually they're 500 pages minimum. And that's just like a huge task when I sometimes just want like a really quick, like 250 page thriller.
Yeah,
So
and they're generally like very like heavy content, lots of like information, lots of history. So you're having to pay more attention when you read than maybe like other books. So yeah, they are more of a mental load. I feel like those are like honestly some pretty solid recs.
I agree. I mean, that's what we each gave 9. That's 18 new books for you to check out. If you, I mean, we talked about some popular books, but
Yeah.
also some books that we think are underhyped. So let us know your 333 in the comments, and then we can all just share our book recommendations with each other and get new books for our TBR, because we all know that's the last thing we all need.
Yeah, I'm like, let's keep adding more books to the never-ending list of books I need to read.
Always keep my want to read list on Goodreads churning with all of your guys' recommendations too, because whenever I go to the bookstore, it's the first place I go. I'm like, what is on my want to read on Goodreads?
Yeah, I need to actually get better about that. I'm feeling inspired. I'm trying to get better about my Goodreads, you guys. I'm writing reviews now, so really you got to follow me.
No, I think that's everything. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Let us know too, if in a nice way, if you disagree with us.
In a nice way. Emphasis on nice.
Okay, thanks, guys. We will see you next month. And if you have any ideas also for future book videos, you can also drop those down below if there's things that you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear from you guys. And thanks for watching. And we love you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.